Illinois abolished parole in 1978. What that means simply is, if you get life for murder, you die in prison. No exceptions. Holly Johnson just learned that the hard way. January 7, 2026, prosecutors hit her with 5 more felony charges on top of the murder charge she's already facing. That's 6 total. Each one stacking time, each one pushing her closer to a sentence she'll never walk away from. And the math? It's brutal. September 8, 2025. Chicago's South Loop. Morning drop-off at an elementary school. Romeka Meeks Blackman kisses her 7-year-old son goodbye, tells him to have a great day, walks back toward her car. Less than 30 minutes later, she's lying on the pavement with 3 gunshot wounds to the face. Dead before she reaches the hospital. The shooter? Holly Johnson, 31 years old, no criminal record. Legal gun owner with a valid concealed carry license. Sitting in a car with Carlos Smith, the man who fathered children with both women. Witnesses say words were exchanged. Carlos allegedly grabbed Romeka, slammed a car door on her back, put her in a chokehold. Holly walked to her vehicle, retrieved her firearm, and fired 3 shots at point-blank range. Then, according to prosecutors, Holly and Carlos fist-bumped while Romeka bled out on the sidewalk. Holly's story is different. She claims self-defense. Says Romeka threatened her for months. That Romeka showed up that morning and said, "I told y'all I was going to catch you." That Holly feared for her life and the life of her 6-month-old baby sitting in the back seat of the car. So she acted. She protected herself. She pulled the trigger because Illinois law says you can use deadly force when you reasonably believe you're in imminent danger. But here's the problem with that defense. Illinois also says celebrating after killing someone doesn't look like fear. It looks like something else. December 4, 2025. Holly appears in court for her bond hearing. The judge listens to both sides. Defense argues Holly's not a flight risk. She has no prior arrests. She legally owned the gun. She's pregnant. She's not dangerous. The judge looks at the evidence, multiple witnesses, 911 calls, surveillance footage showing Holly standing over Romeka's body, reports of celebrating in the street, and the judge says no. Bond denied. Holly's been locked in Cook County Jail ever since. Then came January 7, 2026. Prosecutors filed 5 additional felony charges. That brought Holly's total to 6. And that's when the reality of Illinois law became clear. This isn't about bail anymore. This isn't about ankle monitors or house arrest. This is about the rest of Holly Johnson's life. Because in Illinois, when you catch 6 felony charges tied to shooting someone with a firearm near a school, you're not just facing prison time, you're facing the end. First-degree murder in Illinois starts at 20 years. That's the minimum. Maximum is 60 years. But when a firearm is involved and someone dies, Illinois adds what's called a firearm enhancement. That's an additional 25 years to life on top of the base sentence. So the actual range becomes 45 years to life. And Illinois doesn't negotiate on that. It's mandatory. But here's where most people get confused. They hear life sentence and think there's wiggle room. Like maybe you behave, show remorse, get out in 15 or 20 years. That's not how Illinois works. The state eliminated parole for violent crimes back in 1978. What that means simply is, there's no parole board. No hearing where you sit across from officials and make your case for release. No possibility of early freedom based on rehabilitation or good behavior. In 1998, Illinois took it a step further. They passed truth in sentencing laws. These laws require inmates convicted of violent crimes to serve at least 85% of their sentence. But for murder, you serve 100%, every single day. If the judge gives you 45 years, you do 45 years. If the judge gives you life, you die there. Holly's facing 6 felony charges. The murder count alone carries 45 years minimum. The 5 additional charges filed January 7th could add another 10 to 15 years each, depending on how they're structured. And here's the trap. Illinois allows judges to sentence defendants consecutively on multiple charges. What that means simply is, the sentences don't run at the same time. They run back to back. So if Holly gets convicted on murder plus 3 firearm charges, she could be looking at 75 years or more. Holly's 31 right now. Add 75 years. She'd be over 100 years old before she's theoretically eligible for release. But Illinois doesn't release 100-year-old inmates. You die before you reach that number. And there's no appeal that changes this math. You can appeal your conviction. You can argue the trial was unfair. You can claim your attorney was incompetent. But you can't appeal truth in sentencing. That's state law. That's locked in. And Illinois courts don't budge. Appeals in Illinois murder cases rarely work. The success rate is less than 5%. And even when appeals succeed, they usually result in retrials, not sentence reductions. What that means simply is you might get a new trial, but if you lose again, you're back to the same sentence. Take the case of Marilyn Mulero, convicted of first-degree murder in Cook County in 1992. Got 60 years. She appealed, argued prosecutorial misconduct. Her appeal took 8 years to process. The Illinois Appellate Court reviewed her case in 2000 and denied her appeal. She's still serving her sentence. She'll be eligible for release in 2052. She'll be 80 years old.
Hi, my name is Marilyn. I was incarcerated for 27 years. In 1993, I was sentenced to death row. I was there until 1996 when I was resentenced to natural life without the possibility of parole. In 2013, Dwight Correctional Center closed and we were all detained. Were transferred to Logan Correctional Center.
Once you're convicted, the system doesn't let you out. The appeals process exists, but it's designed to review legal errors, not to reconsider sentences. And truth in sentencing laws ensure that even if you win an appeal and get resentenced, you're still serving close to the original time. Holly's attorney can file appeals if she's convicted. They can argue witness credibility. They can challenge evidence. They can claim the trial was unfair. But none of that changes Illinois sentencing laws. If Holly gets convicted on murder with a firearm enhancement, she's doing 45 years minimum. No judge can reduce that. No appellate court can waive it. That's the law. And here's the kicker. Appeals take years. The average murder appeal in Illinois takes 4 to 7 years to process. What that means simply is, Holly would sit in prison waiting for an answer while her life passes by. And if the appeal fails, she's right back where she started. Except now she's 4 years older, 4 years further from freedom. The 6 charges Holly's facing break down strategically. Prosecutors haven't released the exact language yet, but legal analysts in Cook County have a solid idea based on how these cases are typically structured. Charge 1 is first-degree murder. That's the foundation. It says Holly intentionally killed Romeka Meeks Blackman with a firearm. If convicted on this alone, she's looking at 45 years to life. The 5 additional charges filed January 7th likely involve each individual action Holly took. Illinois law allows prosecutors to charge each discharge of a firearm as a separate felony. Holly fired 3 shots. That's potentially 3 separate charges. Each one carries 10 to 15 years. Then there are location-based charges. Holly fired her weapon within 1,000 feet of an elementary school. Illinois has strict laws about discharging firearms in school zones. That's another felony. She also fired near a CTA bus stop, which falls under public transportation safety laws. That's yet another charge. Some legal observers think prosecutors might add a child endangerment charge later. Holly's 6-month-old baby was in the car during the shooting, unattended, in the direct line of fire. That's reckless endangerment of a minor. But as of January 8, 2026, that charge hasn't been filed. It could still come. These charges don't cancel each other out. They stack. And that's the leverage prosecutors have. Even if Holly beats the murder charge at trial, she's still facing 5 other felonies. Even if a jury believes her self-defense claim, they can still convict her on firearm charges. Because Illinois doesn't allow self-defense as a justification for discharging a weapon in a school zone. You fired near a school. You're guilty. Intent doesn't matter. Fear doesn't matter. Holly could win the murder charge and still spend the next 30 years in prison on the firearm counts alone. January 8, 2026. Holly's second pretrial hearing. Judge Michael Clancy presiding. He's the third judge assigned to this case after 2 others recused themselves. Clancy's known in Cook County as one of the strictest judges on violent crime. He doesn't play around. He doesn't sympathize. He follows the law to the letter. The courtroom was full. Romeka's mother, Tina McMiller, sat on one side with family members wearing pink shirts in Romeka's memory. Holly's family sat on the other side. The tension was thick. This wasn't just a legal proceeding. This was families watching each other across a divide that started with a gunshot and would end with a verdict. The hearing itself was closed to most of the public. Zoom access was limited. The court cited the high-profile nature of the case. What that means simply is they're protecting sensitive information. Witness identities. Evidence that hasn't been publicly disclosed. Details that could compromise the trial if they leak too early. Holly's attorney, Ari Williams, filed a motion asking for Holly's release pending trial. The argument was straightforward. Holly has no criminal history. She's never been arrested before September 8th. She's pregnant, currently about 12 weeks along. She has family in Chicago. She's not a flight risk. She legally owned the firearm and had a valid concealed carry license. She followed the law up until September 8th. She's not a danger to the community. Judge Clancy wasn't convinced. Because here's the reality. Holly's not facing 1 charge anymore. She's facing 6. And when you're accused of shooting someone 3 times in the face in front of witnesses near an elementary school, no judge is putting you on house arrest. Prosecutors argued Holly's actions prove she's dangerous. Doesn't matter if she has no prior arrests. The shooting itself demonstrates danger. And the fact that she allegedly celebrated afterward shows a lack of remorse. What that means simply is, prosecutors don't believe Holly's sorry. They believe she'd do it again if given the chance. Motion denied. Holly stays in Cook County Jail. No bond. No ankle monitor. No home confinement. She'll remain locked up until trial. And if she's convicted, she'll stay locked up for the rest of her life. Holly's next major milestone is May 2026. That's the discovery deadline. Prosecutors must turn over all evidence by then. Police reports, witness statements, body camera footage if it exists, surveillance video from nearby businesses, phone records showing communication between Holly and Romeka, forensic analysis of the firearm, ballistics reports, autopsy results, everything. Once Ari Williams receives that evidence, she'll spend months analyzing it, looking for inconsistencies, challenging timelines, questioning witness reliability, finding procedural errors. That's her job, and she's good at it. But even the best defense attorney can't change the fundamental facts. Holly fired 3 shots. Romeka died. Witnesses saw it. That's hard to overcome. Holly's pregnancy adds another layer to this case. She was 7 weeks pregnant when the shooting happened. She's 12 weeks now. By the time trial starts, she'll have already given birth, and that baby will be born in Cook County Jail. Illinois has a program for pregnant inmates. They receive prenatal care. They deliver at nearby hospitals under guard. After birth, they return to jail with the baby for a limited time, usually 72 hours. Then the baby goes to family or foster care. The mother stays behind bars. What that means simply is, Holly will give birth, hold her child for 3 days, and then watch someone take that baby away. And if she's convicted, she won't see that child again except through prison visitation glass. That child will grow up without a mother, just like Romeka's son is growing up without his mother. The cycle of trauma continues. 2 children lose their mothers, 1 to violence, 1 to prison, and Carlos Smith, the man at the center of it all, walks free. Plea deals are how most murder cases end in Cook County, not trials. Prosecutors offer deals because trials are risky. Juries are unpredictable. Evidence gets challenged. Witnesses forget details. Things go wrong. So prosecutors make an offer. Plead guilty to a reduced charge. Get a lighter sentence. Case closed. In Holly's situation, a plea deal might look like this. She pleads guilty to second-degree murder or voluntary manslaughter. Gets sentenced to 15 to 20 years. Serves every day because of truth in sentencing. But 15 years is survivable. She'd be in her mid-40s when released. She'd still have time to rebuild her life. See her children. Start over. Compare that to trial. If Holly goes to trial and loses on even 3 of the 6 charges, she's looking at 50 to 70 years. She'd die in prison. Her children would grow up visiting her behind glass. Her grandchildren would know her as the woman in the orange jumpsuit. That's the risk. Prosecutors offer plea deals when they're confident but not certain. In this case, they have strong evidence. Multiple eyewitnesses who called 911. Physical evidence at the scene. Carlos Smith's testimony under immunity. But they also have vulnerabilities. Carlos's credibility is questionable because of the immunity deal. One key witness was wearing headphones during the incident. There's no video of the actual shooting, only aftermath. Defense can exploit these gaps, so prosecutors might decide it's safer to lock in a guaranteed conviction with a plea than roll the dice at trial. And Holly might decide it's smarter to take 15 years than gamble on life in prison. Most defendants fold. Statistics show about 65 to 70% of murder cases in Cook County end in plea deals. Because most defendants understand the math. A guaranteed sentence you can survive beats a possible sentence that ends your life. Holly has until discovery is complete to make that decision. Once May 2026 hits and all evidence is exchanged, the case accelerates. Pre-trial motions, hearings, jury selection, trial preparation. At some point, prosecutors will make an offer if they're going to make one. And Holly will have to choose. Take the deal and guarantee she comes home eventually, or refuse and gamble everything on a jury believing her story. Carlos Smith is the wild card nobody's talking about enough. He was there. He allegedly put Romeka in a chokehold. He stood by while Holly shot her. He allegedly fist-bumped Holly afterward. And then he signed an immunity deal with prosecutors that shields him from charges. Immunity deals are complicated. On one hand, Carlos gives prosecutors an insider account. He fills in gaps other witnesses can't. He explains what Holly was thinking, what she said before and after, what led to the moment she pulled the trigger. On the other hand, immunity deals destroy credibility. Ari Williams will argue Carlos is lying to protect himself. That he's saying whatever prosecutors want to hear because his freedom depends on it. Carlos has other problems. He hasn't fought for custody of his son with Romeka. That 7-year-old boy is being raised by his grandmother, Tina McMiller. Strangers donated Christmas presents for the child, while Carlos sat in courtrooms supporting Holly. That doesn't look like a grieving father. That looks like a man who chose sides. Reports indicate Carlos has been sharing information with content creators covering the case. Old videos of Romeka, text messages, details about their volatile relationship. He's trying to shape public perception, trying to paint Romeka as the aggressor and Holly as the victim. But every time Carlos talks, he gives both sides material. Prosecutors can use his statements to build timelines. Defense can use his contradictions to attack his credibility. Carlos is playing a dangerous game. At some point, his testimony will be tested under oath. And if he contradicts himself or gets caught lying, the entire prosecution case could collapse. Or his immunity deal could be challenged if prosecutors believe he withheld critical information. Either way, Carlos is the thread that could unravel everything. Question is whether that thread gets pulled before or after Holly's trial. Illinois spends approximately $38,000 per year to house one inmate. For someone serving a life sentence, that's millions of dollars over decades. Holly's case, if it results in a life sentence, will cost Illinois taxpayers well over $2 million by the time she dies in prison. And that doesn't include medical care, which gets more expensive as inmates age. What that means simply is Holly's case isn't just about justice. It's about resources. It's about a system that spends millions to lock people up forever, because the state decided in 1978 that violent offenders don't deserve second chances. Some argue that's fair. You take a life, you forfeit yours. Others argue it's wasteful, that people can change, that rehabilitation should matter. But Illinois chose its path decades ago, and Holly Johnson is about to find out how permanent that path is. Romeka's family is watching all of this unfold. Tina McMiller, Romeka's mother, is raising her grandson. That 7-year-old boy who watched his mother drop him off at school and never saw her alive again. He's in therapy. He's traumatized. He asks questions his grandmother can't answer. Why did Holly shoot his mom? Where's his dad? When will his mom come back? For Romeka's family, no sentence is enough. Holly could get life without parole and it wouldn't bring Romeka back. But they want accountability. They want to know the system works. They want Holly to face consequences.
To Detective Tiros, you did a great job. I truly appreciate it. To the Attorney General, it's been 3 months of pain and agony. I just want to say thank you, Lord. Thank you. Justice, please. I just want justice. I don't want to fight with nobody. I don't want to argue with nobody. I just want justice for my daughter.
She's 31 years old, pregnant, sitting in Cook County Jail, waiting for discovery, waiting for trial, waiting to find out if she'll ever breathe free air again. Illinois doesn't forgive violent crime. The state eliminated parole to ensure people who commit murder stay locked up. Truth in sentencing laws guarantee every day gets served. And 6 charges stacking on top of each other guarantee the time adds up to something Holly can't survive. She has one realistic option: take a plea deal if prosecutors offer one, plead guilty to a reduced charge, accept 15 to 20 years, serve it, get out in her 40s, see her children again, rebuild, or refuse, go to trial, bet everything on a jury believing her self-defense story, risk losing and spending the rest of her life behind bars, risk dying in prison while her children grow up without her. Most people in Holly's position take the deal, because most people understand that a sentence you can survive is better than a sentence that ends your life. We'll see what Holly decides. If you want to stay updated on this case, hit that subscribe button right now. I'm covering every single development as it happens: discovery, motions, plea negotiations, trial if it goes that far. You don't want to miss what happens next. Drop a comment below with your prediction. Does Holly take a plea deal? Does she go to trial? Can she beat these charges? Let me know what you think, because this case is far from over. And if you're interested in more cases like this, check out the rest of the channel. We cover true crime stories that need deeper analysis. Stories where the justice system makes life or death decisions. Stories like Holly Johnson's. This is about choices, about consequences, about a woman who fired 3 shots and destroyed multiple lives, including her own, and about a system designed to make sure she pays for it forever. Holly Johnson's fate isn't sealed yet, but the walls are closing in. 6 charges, no parole, a lifetime behind bars if she loses. The question is whether she fights or folds.